Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to completely shatter the misconception that melatonin is just some simple, over-the-counter sleep supplement you take after a long flight. We're pulling back the curtain on its true identity as an absolute master regulator of human biology. Honestly, if you think you already know what melatonin does, you might want to brace yourself because prepare to have your mind changed.
So, here's a wild thought. Is this so-called sleep hormone actually a master key to cellular longevity? We're looking at a molecule that dictates literally everything, from your daily circadian rhythm to the systemic aging of your entire body. To really grasp why, we have to look back, way back, to the absolute origins of our cells.
Evolutionary biology reveals a stunning truth here. Melatonin isn't just made in your brain. Your mitochondria, the literal powerhouses of your cells, retained the ability to produce it from their ancient bacterial ancestors. This means melatonin is synthesized directly inside your cells as a fundamental survival mechanism. It maintains these incredibly high concentrations completely independent of your pineal gland. It's an ancient evolutionary shield.
Okay, Section 1, the master circadian clock. Let's look at how light and darkness physically alter the neurology of your brain.
You and I exist on this incredibly delicate biological tipping point where your environment directly dictates your neuroendocrine state. When light hits your eyes, your brain's suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN, secretes GABA. Now, GABA is an inhibitory neurotransmitter that actively blocks melatonin synthesis. But the moment you're in darkness, the SCN switches gears entirely. It secretes glutamate, which triggers a chain reaction releasing norepinephrine, finally unlocking that melatonin production.
Let's trace that whole biological cascade, because it happens incredibly fast. Your retina detects the light environment. The SCN processes that signal and fires it right down your spinal cord to the superior cervical ganglion. From there, it relays sympathetic autonomic nervous system input, surging back up into the pineal gland. There, it activates the ANANT enzyme to actually synthesize the melatonin. This exact neurological loop must remain totally uninterrupted for your autonomic nervous system to properly downregulate at night.
But here's where things get a bit terrifying when it comes to aging. Over time, our pineal gland undergoes severe calcification, and we lose beta-adrenoceptor density. The result? A staggering tenfold decrease in pineal melatonin production in octogenarians compared to teenagers. Tenfold! You're literally losing the core signal that tells your body how to repair itself.
Which brings us to Section 2, the mitochondrial energy matrix. Let's zoom in and see how this systemic drop builds into a massive molecular crisis inside your cells.
Okay, big concept here. Amphiphilicity. This is a rare chemical property, and because melatonin has it, it isn't blocked by standard biological membranes. It seamlessly crosses the blood-brain barrier, slips into literally any cell, and travels straight into the mitochondrial matrix using specific PEPT1 and PEP2 transporters. It acts as the ultimate cellular guardian, delivering antioxidant defense exactly where your metabolic fires are burning the hottest. Let's dive into the molecular machinery for a second. Inside the cell, melatonin activates a critical survival network, the SIRT1, PGC1 alpha, and SIRT3 signaling pathway. Think of SIRT1 as a cellular sensor for energy. PGC1 alpha then triggers the birth of brand new mitochondria, and SIRT3 activates critical antioxidant enzymes like SOD2. This synchronized biological symphony is exactly how melatonin preserves your cellular energy stores, restores redox balance, and totally prevents mitochondrial decay.
Now, if that pathway fails, cells undergo something called ferroprostis. This is a nasty, iron-dependent form of programmed cell death, driven by lethal lipid peroxides. But melatonin actively prevents this catastrophic cell death. It is particularly protective in dopaminergic neurons, the exact neurons lost in Parkinson's disease, by maintaining vital glutathione levels and neutralizing those toxic free radicals.
All right, that brings us to Section 3, shielding the aging brain. We're transitioning now from microscopic energetics to how these cellular defenses prevent severe neurodegeneration. You've probably heard the term inflammaging. It's this chronic, low-grade systemic inflammation linked directly to mitochondrial dysfunction and a degrading immune system. So the crucial point is that as your melatonin levels decrease over time, this toxic inflammatory burden increases, literally accelerating the aging process across your entire central nervous system.
But melatonin uses a very precise mechanism to fight back.
It physically blocks the TLR4 and NF-kappa B signaling pathways, and it completely inhibits the NLRP3 inflammasome. What does that mean in plain English? It literally switches off the genetic transcription of pro-inflammatory cytokines in your brain's glial cells. It stops neuroinflammation right at the DNA level.
This comparison is a real eye-opener. When you're sleep-deprived and melatonin drops, your HPA axis is disinhibited. Cortisol spikes, driving intense immune senescence and just crushing your immune system. But when we restore melatonin, preclinical studies show it actually rejuvenates the degenerated thymus gland, stimulating the production of brand-new T cells. Melatonin is the critical missing link between solid sleep architecture and a highly resilient immune system.
In this defense system, it extends directly to neurodegenerative diseases. Through a process called mitophagy, melatonin activates the Beclin-1 pathway and inhibits mTOR signaling to meticulously clear out cellular garbage. We're talking about clearing out the pathological, misfolded alpha-synuclein proteins that cause Parkinson's. It even upregulates telomerase activity to protect your DNA's lifespan and halt cellular senescence in its tracks.
Okay, Section 4, Reversing Systemic Immune Senescence. With the brain protected, let's examine how these exact same mechanisms scale out to your cardiovascular system and skeletal health.
Let's take a hard look at the evidence here. We have to separate the established scientific consensus, like melatonin's highly proven role in circadian entrainment and cellular antioxidant defense, from the emerging frontiers. For instance, the clinical data on bone mineral density is highly variable right now, though it is looking incredibly promising.
Now, what's really interesting is this recent meta-analysis on menopausal women. It found that just 3 milligrams of melatonin, especially in combination formulations like MSDK, showed statistically significant improvements in femoral neck bone density. However, because the formulations used in these trials varied so much, the results are still highly heterogeneous. So finding the exact optimal independent dose for osteoporosis, it's a complex puzzle we're still actively solving.
But when it comes to the heart, the mechanisms are crystal clear. By scavenging free radicals and modulating nitric oxide, this indolamine defends your heart against structural remodeling and failure. It protects cardiac tissue from ischemia and reperfusion injury, lowers blood pressure through autonomic regulation, and boosts essential Na plus K plus ATPase and circa enzyme activity. Basically, it keeps your heart pumping with maximum efficiency. Which brings us to our final chapter, Section 5, Optimizing Your Biological Rhythms. How do we take this massive, unified biological framework and practically apply it to your daily life?
Well, it starts with chrononutrition. You know, it's not just about what you consume, but exactly when you consume it. Eating in perfect harmony with your internal clock and choosing polyphenol-rich diets that support circadian functions completely mitigates metabolic stress. It ensures your body's natural melatonin production isn't constantly fighting against your digestive timeline. Ultimately, you're left with a very clear choice for your longevity. You are either trapped in a vicious cycle where chronodisruption leads to melatonin decline, mitochondrial decay, inflammation, and rapidly accelerated aging, or you're stepping into a virtuous cycle, deliberately aligning your behavior with the light-dark cycle, restoring robust sleep architecture, and achieving cellular homeostasis to radically extend your health span.
I'm going to leave you to ponder this one final thought. Given melatonin's profound, heavily evidence-backed control over your cellular lifespan, your immunity, and your brain health, how is your artificial light environment impacting your mitochondrial energetics tonight? Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer. And remember, true optimization doesn't start with a quick fix. It starts right here at the molecular level.